AML is one of the most aggressive blood cancers, and at the moment the only way of curing it is to give intensive chemotherapy. This is much stronger than the chemotherapy given for other types of cancer, and patients usually need to stay in hospital for about a month after each course of treatment to recover. Therefore, we are constantly looking for new and more intelligent ways to treat AML, ideally without having to put patients through intensive chemotherapy. Luckily, there are quite a few new drugs which have been developed in the last few years. Also, and just as importantly, there have been major advances in laboratory diagnostics, and so that we can now rapidly identify molecularly defined subgroups of disease, and also accurately track response to treatment at the molecular level. In the Victor trial, we're taking advantage of both of these advances to test a new approach to treating patients with AML. Before they enter the trial, patients will have a rapid diagnostic test, which can tell if they're likely to have a good response to the new treatment, which is called venetoclax. This is a drug which activates an inbuilt suicide mechanism inside leukemia cells, which makes them much more sensitive to chemotherapy. So the doses of chemotherapy we have to give them are about 100 to 1,000 times lower than usual. We think that patients treated with venetoclax will have fewer side effects compared with intensive chemotherapy, but because we're only testing this on patients with a high likelihood of response, we hope that the chances of cure will be just as good. If we can show that venetoclax is just as good as intensive chemotherapy for treating patients with particular subtypes of AML, this could lead to major benefits for patients in the future in terms of treatment side effects, time spent in hospital, and quality of life.
It's an absolutely game-changing study led by Richard Dillon, and we're now in a position where we'll be able to open that transformative study up to patients with acute myeloid leukemia. And this is really the first example of such a study in the world. And that again wouldn't have happened without acute leukemia support.
Working with TAP has been a huge advantage in developing this study. TAP aims to move trials from being an idea into reality much more quickly than would otherwise be possible. And this allows us to bring access to trials to patients much more quickly. TAP gives access to a team of really brilliant and highly experienced clinical trial and statistics experts who are able to navigate this whole series of complex steps we have to go through to get from idea to reality. Any of those steps could have stopped the trial or caused major delays, but because of the dedication and the experience of the TAP team, they're able to negotiate all of these in a really agile way, and that really accelerates access to new trials, which is a huge advantage for patients both now and in the future. I've been getting lots of emails from colleagues up and down the country who are very excited to participate. We now have 40 hospitals signed up in the UK, as well as centres in Denmark and New Zealand. And we're all very excited to get going with the trial and see if we can improve the standard of care for these patients. I'm really grateful for the support of TAP and Cancer Research UK for this study. And special thanks to Cure Leukemia, who support the TAP Hub, as well as funding the research nurses in the TAP hospitals, who'll be looking after the patients enrolled in this study. Working with TAP has been a really wonderful experience, and it's made me realise that by working together, we can really start to make big changes for people with this horrible disease.